Hi, I'm Zoe, and today we are going to talk about measuring a 4-level split. At a typical 4-level split here in Robbinsdale, mid-century home, pretty basic style that a lot of you have seen before, but a lot of people think a 4-level is hard to measure, get confused about what's above grade and what's below grade. You'll see as we go around though that there are 2 levels above grade, 2 levels below grade, and essentially just think of it as a rambler, but it's just kind of a little bit off kilter. So we'll go around the whole house, measure the whole thing, and I'll talk to you a little bit about how to make sure that you've got everything, that you haven't missed anything. There's a porch on this house we need to take into consideration, and also a garage and things like that. So I'm going to start at one corner and start pulling my tape measure across and go all the way around and draw my sketch on my graph paper as I go. Alright, I'm going to start at the corner. I've got my fiberglass tape measure with the hook on the end. I just hook it on the edge of the house. As long as I apply a little pressure to it as I walk, I can step around the bushes and come out from it a little bit. Come all the way over. Now, upstairs, the other level, I can see as I back up, matches up right about here. So I'm going to make a note as I stop here, not going the whole distance, that the upper level is about 20.5 feet. And then I go all the way down here. Okay? So that's about 24.5. So I'm going to make both those notes on my sketch. I've got 20.5 and 24.5. And then I'll also measure this distance right here. That's 2 feet. And again, I'll hook it on here and come across here. Watch out for the window wells. And that's 19.5. So I'm going to mark these on my sketch now. And as I've mentioned before in some things, that I mark everything on the first level in red ink and everything on upper levels in blue ink. It's just my method of doing things. So I know that I've got 24 going across, 24.5. But I know that the upper level was just 20.5. That's where the second floor up there meets up. Then I came out 2 feet to that bump out next to the door, and then the next was 19.5. So I've got that drawn out for myself as I go along. Now I'll move on and continue to measure the garage. I'm going to get this measurement now, and I could hook my tape measure on here and walk back in there, but they've got a pile of logs here. And I've mentioned in the past the extra wide Fatmax tape measure, and it's good for things like this, because I can extend it the whole distance out here without having to walk in there. So I can get this measurement easily without needing assistance. That's 8 feet. So it's a good idea to have the bigger tape measure to do things like that. So I can get that measurement from there, and then I can continue along and get the front of the garage moving along like this. Alright, and that's 13 feet. We're on the side of the garage now. I've got a gutter here. It makes it a little bit tough sometimes, but it's brick wall, so my tape measure should stick to the brick wall pretty well, and I'll just have to account for a little bit of extra square footage for the gutter. And I've got a porch back there, so I'm going to stop at the end of the garage, and then I'll measure the porch separately. Now that was 22 feet 4 inches, but the 4 inches is pretty much because I had to go out and around the gutter, so I'm just going to go with 22 feet on that. Then I come up here, and I can see I've got a little bit of a porch here, and that's different. That's not part of the house. It's a separate thing. And I got a lot of plants again, so again I'm going to use the tape measure and go ahead and do this distance right from here, and that's 10 feet. Okay? Just make sure you take everything into consideration separately. You mark what's the garage and what's the porch and what is actually part of the house. Alright, we're on the back of the house now. This is the back corner of the porch. So I'm going to take my tape measure all the way across, but I'm going to be noting as I go where the porch ends, and I can see through the door here where the porch ends. And I'll be noting where the doorways are, and then I'll get over to that other wall over there that the bump out is. And that bump out back there helps me match up with the front. In the front, where I could look at the upper level and kind of back up and figure out where the square footage was there, this bump out will line up with that, and it'll help me make sure that I got that measurement on the front correct. Hook it on the side, and I'm going to note right here, this is the end of the porch, so that's about 11.5 feet, and keep on going. Alright, I've got 36 feet all the way across, and a 2-foot bump out again. So I'll make a note of that on my sketch. So I made a note as I went across that it was 36 feet the whole distance, but I marked off in black that the porch was actually 11.5 feet right there. And then here's my little 2 feet going out. And I put the doors on. All right, I'm still in the Back of the house, I'm going to do the last section right here. I'm actually going to start on the other end because this gutter makes it hard to hook a tape measure on. When the gutter's that close to the edge, it's really hard to hook the tape measure on, so I'll start at that end. This is part of the reason you do all four sides of the house. The front of the house, remember, it was hard for me to see what was upstairs a little bit because the overhang of the porch, but back here it's going to match up exactly. So if I do this section on the back, it'll help me double check my measurement from the front and make sure that I got the measurement correct on there. This I can't get all the way in there because of the weeds. So I'm going to have to use my regular tape measure and do it in sections. So you can always do it in sections if you can't get up against the house easily enough. So by just using this tape measure and doing it in sections, I came up with 20 feet. On the front I had 20.5 feet, so they're definitely within range of each other, so I'm not going to worry too much about that half foot. I'll figure it out when I do the rest of the sketch. But this did help me double check the front. Now also I would go and do the last side of this house. This house has got more bushes on that side and a fence over there, so it's going to be difficult, but I can hook the tape measure on the fence like I showed in the last video instead of on the side of the house and measure it up there. So remember, do all four sides and it helps you catch all your measurements. Before I go into the house, I will write down these measurements and I will add up the front and the back, make sure they match, and add up the sides and make sure they match to make sure I didn't miss any measurements. We're standing inside the 4-level split now. The front door is right across from me. Just wanted to point out, I've talked about a 4-level split being really just a rambler that hit an earthquake. So I'm standing on the main floor right now. Front door right here. I've got the living room right here, kitchen right behind me, and the stairs are right here. If you look up the stairs, that's that half flight of stairs that goes up to the upper level. There's 3 bedrooms and a bathroom up there, and downstairs to another level, and then below where I'm standing is the 4th level. If you just forget about these stairs and kind of move the house where this level with the bedrooms becomes part of the main level and that bedroom down there becomes part of the lower level. Just think about getting rid of the stairs and evening it out. So this plus there is all one level. When I draw the sketch, it'll look like a rambler. And that level plus the level below the living room here will all be on one level also, and that will be all the basement. A lot of people try to call that above grade if there's a walkout. But you would never call a rambler a walkout. You never call the basement on a rambler above grade finished square footage just because it has a walkout. This you have to go down a half a flight of stairs to get to, so that is part of the basement. We're standing in the porch now. Remember when I went on the outside of the house, I could see the porch from the outside. Came through the dining room right here out to the porch. I always double check a step out to the room, make sure that there are no bump outs from the house, nothing that I missed from the outside. And also, this is the door to the garage. I always want to take a peek in the garage, make sure there's no bump outs out there, that the garage didn't cut in and add more closet space in the living room or something like that. So just make sure that you come out, double check things, open doorways, look in every place so that I know that this line going straight back, the house is a straight line back here. This wall for the porch matches up with that wall for the garage, and it all makes sense. We're in the lowest level of the house now. We're in the basement, and when you are measuring to get your below ground finished square footage, you need to figure out what's finished in the basement and what's not. You already know the overall size of the basement. We got that from the outside. It's this level plus the level that's half a flight of stairs up. You've got those measurements from the outside. The easiest way to figure out what's finished in the basement is to take that overall measurement and subtract the utility room out of it. Generally, there is one room that's unfinished, and it's much easier to subtract that one room out than to add in the family room plus the bedroom plus the bathroom plus the closets plus the hallway. Okay, so just take it a little bit easier. Got the outside measurement, subtract the unfinished area. It makes it easier to get the below ground finished square footage, which then you can add to the above ground and get your total finished square footage.